Hello, welcome to Michelle Sews Again. I'm Michelle. This is my Saturday version of #Friday Sews. If you want to hear a little bit about what I've been working on and a little bit about life, then please stay tuned. Okay, so I'm going to go a little bit out of order today, maybe. I don't know. I am going to start with the Sewing Expo and my recap of that, and then I'll get into what I've been working on and a little bit about life. So, the Sewing Expo. Oh my gosh. So I left last week on Tuesday and drove up to Lakeland. It's about 2 hours and 15 minutes from where I live. And I can take a small highway. I don't have to get on 75. And it's actually it's the same amount of time, but a lot less hassle. And so I got there Tuesday afternoon, and I had rented an Airbnb, and a lot of us stayed there. So I got there Tuesday. I was there by myself Tuesday because I was taking an all-day class on Wednesday, and I didn't want to have to drive up Wednesday morning. So I stayed over by myself Tuesday. So the absolute best part of the whole week, I was there from Tuesday through Saturday, and without a doubt, the absolute best part was getting together with all of my sew sisters, my sewing friends, these people that have become a part of my life through Zoom, through YouTube, through Instagram, through comments, and both other YouTubers and people who aren't on YouTube but interact with me and all of the others through comments. We're all a part of the same community, and it was just so amazing to spend time with all of you and all of my fellow YouTubing friends, and I just had the most amazing time. I got to meet for the first time in person Christine from Christine Sews a Lot, Izzy from Dizzy Quilts and Sews, Carol from Sew Carol, who came all the way across the pond, and I got to meet Robin from Robin's Love of Sewing. And I had already met in person several times, or at least once, Jen from Today in Jen's Sewing Room, Carmen Salome, Heather from Textile Tailored Thoughts, Mari from Mari Sews, Trish from Pinky's Farm, Andra from Andra Makes, and so it was so heartwarming. I mean, in this day and age, you read about how there are so many women that just kind of tear each other down. They judge each other. Women are harsher on other women than any other groups are on each other. And I keep talking with my hands because I'm so grateful to have this group of friends, because we lift each other up, we support each other, and we know that we can count on each other if we need to. And it's just such a overwhelming and heartwarming feeling to be with these women in person. And even the people that I met for the very first time in real life, it was bizarre and surreal, but it also felt supernatural. So if you have a chance to meet any of your online friends that you have a strong rapport with, and you have a chance to meet them in person, I tell you, just go for it, because it is amazing. And I'm still smiling a week later. I've been home a week and I'm still smiling about it because it was just such a great experience. So now on to the classes. So before I move on to the classes, I want to tell you about a couple of gifts that I got. So there were a few of us that had some little things for each other, and it was kind of fun to exchange gifts. It was just, we didn't talk about it. It just happened. So my first gift is this fabulous Friday Sews t-shirt. I got it from Jen in Today in Jen's Sewing Room, and she gave a few of us one, and mine is obviously tie-dye, and I love it so much. She knows me very well, obviously, and she got my size right. And what I'm really excited about is I just watched Adam's Friday Sews this morning, and he got the same one as me, so Adam and I can be twinsies. The next thing that I got is, I mean, you guys, Mari is so freaking talented. So I got this eyeglass case. She put my name on it. The strap has an inscription on it. Is that upside down? Yes, it is. It says, "You are inspiration's perfect muse." That's kind of her slogan that she has for her business. And her business, if you're not already aware, is called Inspired Leather. And she makes the most gorgeous leather products, all by hand. And she made this eyeglass case. It fits my readers perfectly. So they're in there. There's a little thing for the bridge of the glasses so they don't float around. And this little strap, once you put it in there, it holds in place. So you can throw that in your purse and have your readers without them getting scratched up. So I'm excited about that. And hot pink, I mean, it's my jam. And I also got an adorable little notebook, perfect size for note-taking in classes, with a beautiful gel pen from Trish from Pinky's Farm. I can't find it. I've looked everywhere. This apartment is not that big. I don't know where it could have gone, but I took all of my notes in my classes in that cute little notebook. And what was so fun about it is she wrapped it in paper, but instead of wrapping and taping, she sandwiched it between two pieces of wrapping paper, and then she zigzag stitched the edges. I mean, that's taken gift wrapping up a whole nother notch, right? I got these really fun little initial fobs from Christine Sews a Lot, and it has my initial on the front. And then, I mean, look how perfect. She's got one of my favorite color combos on the back with pink and orange. Love it. So those can go on bags, they can go on my keychain. So I'll have fun figuring out what to do with those. Andra gave those of us that didn't have to travel on a plane, she got us this amaretto pecan honey butter from a place called Troyer's. Apparently it's, the thing about Andra that is so awesome is she loves to support local businesses. So if you go visit her, then she will take you to a local coffee shop, or she will take you to a restaurant that is locally owned. She doesn't like to do the chain. She would prefer to support the local businesses. And I think that is so fabulous. So Troyer's is a local business. It's an Amish country market, I think. But I mean, amaretto pecan honey butter, this sounds amazing. So I've been doing really healthy this week, so I haven't dipped into this yet, but I am planning on giving this a taste soon because it sounds amazing. When we were at the expo and we had that Friday meetup, I got to meet Robin from Robin's Love of Sewing. I hadn't met her in person before, and she brought these little hand towels that wrap around the handle of your oven or a handle of a drawer in your kitchen. And I can't find mine right now, but she had those for quite a few people, and I thought that was just super thoughtful of her. She was really lovely. She was brought there with her husband brought her, and he was so sweet just to sit around and let her visit. I just thought that was super sweet. So speaking of the meetup, again, that was so fun. Got to meet up with so many people who watch so many of our videos, and it was just really lovely to meet people in person and to have a chit chat with them. Now, I will tell you, I am very awkward in situations where I don't know people in person. And so some of the conversations might have been a little awkward just because I am an introvert. I know it's weird for people to think about that introverts can get on YouTube and like present themselves to the world, or whoever's willing to watch. But getting on here and talking to my camera is way easier than putting me in a room with somebody that I've never met before and trying to have a conversation. So if I was awkward, I apologize, but I really did enjoy meeting you. If I had the chance to meet you, I'm super grateful that you took the time to come and meet up with us. And thank you. Okay, So now I want to get into the classes. I scheduled 7 classes. I ended up only taking 6, and I'll get into that at the end. But let me just go through them one by one. Okay, so the first class that I took was the all-day class. It was from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Wednesday, and it was with Judy Phillips, and the class was collage quilting. Guys, I mean, that class just like made my head explode in a good way, and I think I have a new second favorite hobby. So sewing garments will probably always be my first love, but you know that I have started on a quilt using my ice dye scraps, and I think that's going to be fun. I'm having fun putting that together. But this collage quilting, oh my gosh, that is right up my alley. So when we got to class, there were no sewing machines. So I was like, that's odd. Well, we didn't need the sewing machines. I will at some point once I get further into the process, but for the first part of the project, you don't need a sewing machine. You're basically cutting up fabric, using fusible web, and putting things together like you're in kindergarten and making a collage, a paper collage. It's literally just like that. Maybe a little bit more technical, but not too much. I thought it was so much fun, and it was interesting because a lot of people who are traditional quilters were really struggling with it because basically there's no rules. And that's why I loved it. But I'm gonna put in a little bit of scrolling of the website. The teacher gave us 5 different pattern options, and she had the patterns there. It was part of the fee for the course, and the patterns were all by Laura Heine, who has a website. And here, I'm going to show you some of her patterns. These weren't the ones we had to choose from, but there was a flamingo, and unfortunately she only had 5 copies of each pattern. By the time I got up to the table, the flamingo was gone because I totally would have gone for the flamingo. So what I ended up getting was the bust form. So this is my pattern, and this is an example of what the final quilt will look like. Mine is going to be much brighter colors, which you'll see in a minute. Like I think I said, the teacher was Judy Phillips. And the first thing she told us was, do not follow the directions in the pattern. The reason is because they have you block fuse a lot of things on your steam seam. And she had us do it in much smaller pieces, which saves you steam seam. You don't end up wasting it. So I am so glad that I took the class because I would have followed the directions and wasted a lot of steam seam, which is not cheap. So I'm gonna cut to a separate video where I'm gonna show you my progress on my quilt and how it looks right now. So let's go to that. So this is my current status of my collage quilt. I'm willing to go into this in more detail. If you're interested, I will do a separate video on it, but this is all I have done so far, and there are obviously many next steps, but this part of the process was super duper fun for me. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you'd like to see a full video on this, but this is where it is right now. I kind of think I'm happy with it, and I think I'm ready to fuse it all together. What do you think? Okay, now that you've seen where I'm at, I don't want to spend this whole video talking about that because I could probably talk about that for half an hour. So if you are interested in the process that I've already done for where I am now and what the next steps are, let me know in the comments and I'll do a dedicated video just to my collage quilt. If you're not interested, then I won't, but I'm excited to talk about it. So let me know. And yeah, if I get a few votes for it, then I'll do a separate video on that. Okay, so the next class that I took was the Interrupted 9 patch. Another right up my alley kind of a quilting process. I will say that I loved this class. I love what I'm putting together. I can't wait to see it finished. but I don't know that it will be something that I do a lot of. I'm gonna be super thrilled with the one that I finish, but out of the two different processes, I definitely love the collage quilting more. So I will insert a little bit of either pictures or video here of the blocks that I have done so far. We finished 4 blocks in class. It was a 3-hour class. She took us through step by step. The reason I love this one also is because there's really no rules. So basically you start with a traditional 9 patch, and then you cut it somewhere, and then you flip one side, you move it, you just kind of move things around, and then you put an interrupter piece in between. Then you flip it the other way, you cut it somewhere again, you flip one, you move it around, and you put another interrupter patch. And this is an example of what one of the finished blocks looks like. So you can see that it no longer looks like a 9 patch at all. I've used these different shades of turquoise blue as my interrupters, and that's basically what I'm using for all of my blocks. And then it doesn't matter which direction it goes. So I'm gonna make as many of these as I have charm packs for. So I did 5-inch charm packs, and that's what I'm using for both the print and the solid. And then I have a jelly roll full of colorful solids that I'm using for the interrupter. And yeah, so that's what one looks like. And I'll show you the wall of the 5 blocks that I have done so far. I have 3 more 9 patches done that I just need to split up and put the interrupters in. And I don't know how big I'm gonna make this, we'll see. But yeah, I really enjoyed that class, and I can't remember who the teacher was. I'll get that name and put it at the bottom. But she was a really good teacher, and I really enjoyed this. You can make this with any size squares. Her example was made out of 3.5-inch charm packs, or I don't know what you call those. But hers were smaller, and her finished quilt was gorgeous. The third class that I took, now these are probably not in order because after the all-day class, I don't remember what order I took these in. But the next class I took was called Battles with the Bust, and it was with Lorraine Henry. If you ever have a chance to take any of her fitting classes, she has, I want to say 3 different fitting classes available at the Sewing Expo. She has a boot camp that is like 3 hours, and she works with you on a half-size template. She has a pants fitting class, and then she has a bust class. And I took the Battles with the Bust this year. I took the pants fitting and the boot camp last year. And she uses this book in her classes. Fitting and pattern alteration. This is a textbook that is used in classes, in design classes, and it uses a seam adjustment method as opposed to the slash and spread method. And this method just really resonated with me. I did not take the lessons I learned last year and run with them. This year I want to do that. So I've already got my So Frugal top cut out, so I'm not going to use this method on that one. But the very next project that I cut out, I am going to use the bust fitting lessons that I learned from her class and see what kind of a difference that makes in how my tops fit. So like I said, if you ever have a chance to take a class with her, jump on it because she is a fantastic teacher. I think that you will hear the same thing from other people who have taken classes from her if you hear about them on YouTube as well. The one thing about this book is she recommends that you take it to like a copy shop like Kinko's or something, and you get the book bound on rings and the front and the back laminated. And my friend Heather from Textile Tailored Thoughts also bought the book, and she's already had hers done, and it was like less than $15 to get it done. So I definitely want to take that. It'll make it much easier when you can open it and lay it flat when you're trying to follow the directions. Okay, the next class that I took was called Sashiko Embroidery. I've been calling it Sashiko, and apparently it's pronounced Sashiko. So my apologies for mispronouncing that in the past. Anyway, so that was actually, it was scheduled to be a 4-hour class, and the teacher explained to us, and the teacher was Jill McCoy. And she explained to us that it was because it was supposed to originally be a different class, Tamari, I think she said. And she needed 4 hours for that, but for this she only needed 3. So at the end of 3 hours, we all kind of finished up and went on our way. But I struggled with this, but really only for one reason. So this is the work that I did on one side, and I've started this on the other. So she had us use this stitching, what did she call it? So she had these like different patterns printed on this stuff that you peel it off, and it feels kind of, again, almost like Swedish tracing paper. It's got a little bit of a textured feel to it. And then you peel it off this backing, and then you stick it to your fabric. And it's got the pattern on there so that theoretically you can just stitch through and follow the pattern. This stuff was super sticky. I was making a little booklet. So this is gonna fold over and become a little booklet. So you also have 2 layers of fabric. So the 2 layers of fabric plus this sticky stuff made it very difficult to get the needle through. So I did not enjoy the process because of that. However, I do believe if I were to do this on a single layer of fabric, what I will do next time is I will get a template, because there are a lot of just, thin plastic templates out there, and I will use a washable marker. I guess typically you would use chalk, but the chalk, I think, rubs off. So if you want your pattern to stay in place, I think using a washable marker will work, and that way I don't have to go through the sticky stuff, and I would probably rarely ever do it on multiple layers. So the thing with Sashiko is you're supposed to be able to get like a rhythm going, because you push your needle through all the lines and then pull it out at the end. You're not doing one stitch at a time. You're almost like running it through, if that makes sense. And the rules, if there are any, are that your space in between the stitches, so there's not a rule on how long your stitches are supposed to be. The rule is that your breaks in between your stitches are half as long as the length of your stitch. So that's what the ratio of stitch to break is supposed to be. So it's easier to get in that method when you can move through the fabric. So all in all, I enjoyed the fact that I learned something new, even though I didn't enjoy the process while I was learning it, but I can see the potential for it. So I am happy I took the class, even though I'm not going to get a finished item out of the project materials. Now, she did say that this was stickier than any, this batch was stickier than any she had seen before. We couldn't figure out if that's just because it was the batch or if it's because we were in South Florida and it might have been muggy. Either way, I don't think I'm going to need it in the future, so I won't do that again. And I do think I would really enjoy doing some Sashiko on a garment, whether it's on a collar, on a back yoke, on a cuff. I can totally see doing some of that Sashiko embroidery and just embellishing a garment, and I think I would love that. The next class that I took was called Notions, Gadgets, and Hacks, I think, and it was taught by Judy Phillips, who is the same woman who taught the collage quilting class, and she basically went over some of her favorite tools, and I ended up ordering some of them from her website. So she does own a sewing and fabric shop. I forget where it is, but it's called Sew Deja Vu. I'll put it at the bottom here, and I'll put a link to her website in the description box. But I did buy a couple of things, and the thing that I'm kind of most excited about is this ironing pad. So it's a silicone, if I can find a picture, I'll put it up here. It's an iron-shaped silicone mat. What makes it interesting is that it's got 2 slits on either side of bottom section and they're pretty wide. They're several inches wide. And what you're supposed to do is you fold your bias tape into the size that you want and you feed it through both of the slits, and then you just leave your iron sitting flat on top and you can just feed your bias tape through, and it like cuts down the time it takes to put your bias tape together by a fraction. So I thought that was super neat. I also bought a stiletto. I don't own one. I thought it was very interesting that she was like, everybody needs a stiletto. How many of you have sewn through your finger? And several people raised their hands. I've never sewn through my finger. So I'm like, I don't understand that. But maybe it's because quilters get closer to the needle. I don't get that close to the needle, so that's not been a problem for me. But I did see several things that the stiletto would come in handy for. So I ended up buying, I think, like 5 different things. So once I get those in, I will share those with you in another Friday Sews. And then the last class that I took was called Embellished Quilts. And this was also by Jill McCloy, who is the same teacher who taught the Sashiko Embroidery. And I enjoyed this class. This one was more of a lecture class. It wasn't hands-on at all. It was only an hour. And she just showed examples of ways that you can embellish quilts. Now, I will tell you that I wasn't super inspired by the style of quilts that she did. They were all very traditional with some embellishment. However, I was inspired by the types of embellishments that she did. So I can see incorporating some of those embellishments onto the collage quilt. I think that could be super neat. I'm just thinking, like, if I found like some beads or something and I layered in some beads like on the neckline of my bust form and made that like 3D, I could even like take some wooden beads and cover them with oh my gosh, that just made blew my mind. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna find some wooden beads or even some plastic beads, it doesn't matter probably, and cover them with fabric and make a fabric covered necklace for my bust form. Oh my God, that's gonna be adorable. But yeah, I was super inspired by the different methods of embellishment that she taught us, even though I wouldn't necessarily make an embellished quilt the way that she made them. So that's the thing about inspiration. You can get inspiration from the most unlikely places. Things that maybe aren't your taste can still inspire you. So that's why I love to follow Friday Sews on YouTube, because even though there are a ton of YouTubers whose style is vastly different than mine, I still get inspired. I get sparks of inspiration on how to do something in my style from something that they've done. So I encourage you to go and follow the hashtag Friday Sews in the YouTube search bar, because even if you don't necessarily vibe with a style that somebody has, you could still get very inspired by them. So those were the 6 classes that I actually took. And then the 7th class that I had scheduled was about different types of stabilizers. I'll tell you, by the time that was my last class, it was a 12:30 to 1:30 class, or maybe 1:30. Oh, it was a 1:30 to 2:30 class on Saturday. I was so wiped out from the whole week of having so much fun with all my friends, taking all these fabulous classes. I just didn't have the energy, and somebody had pointed out in one of my videos that stabilizer and interfacing are not the same thing. So that's my lack of knowledge still showing through. And so I don't think that I probably need stabilizer too often based on that description. I was really hoping for a class on different types of interfacing. So I ended up just skipping the stabilizer class. I turned in my ticket because apparently one of the teachers said that they only get paid by the tickets turned in, which I think is BS, because I've paid for the ticket. Whether I took the class or not, the teacher should get paid. So I'm not real happy about that. But I did turn my ticket in just so that the teacher would get paid for me whether I went or not. Anyway, so all in all, I had an amazing experience at the expo with my friends. The quilt exhibits are phenomenal. if you go to the expo and you go to the exhibit hall just for that, it's worth it. I didn't shop at all. I think I bought some hand cream and that was it. But I had an amazing time. I enjoyed all my classes and I had a great time with my friends. Now, will I go again next year? So I've had 2 years of really great classes. They tend to offer the same classes every year. So will I go it again next year? Honestly, it totally depends on the class schedule, because there's only one class left that I'd be interested in taking, and that is painting with thread. And I would really love to take that. So if some of my other friends are going again, then I will go and I will take that class. But if my other friends aren't going, there's not enough classes to intrigue me to go. I will learn painting with thread from YouTube. What I would like to do is I'm going to reach out to the organizers of the expo and make suggestions that they have some new garment related classes. And I think that would bring in additional attendees, because right now it is very heavily weighted towards quilters. Even though it's called the Sewing and Quilting Expo, it is much more heavily leaning towards quilters. That includes the vendors in the exhibit halls. The majority of the fabric is quilting fabric, which they're all quality quilting fabrics, which makes it much nicer. So you can use them for garments, but they're still not drapey for most garments that you would want to make. If you're in the market for a machine, it's a great place to go, because they do often have really good deals. But if I can't convince them to offer some additional garment type classes, then I'm not sure if I'm going to go again. I think we might try and find a different way to get together than the Sewing Expo next year if they don't have additional classes. Okay, so now let's move on to what I have been working on. Before I left for the expo, I started working on my Color Me Cafe project. And as I've mentioned before, I am going to, you have to mix at least 3 of his fabrics for this challenge. And I had bought this gorgeous piece of fabric and a jelly roll. Was it a jelly roll? Yeah, a jelly roll of his fabrics. And I ended up piecing together a lot of the jelly roll pieces, and I'm going to use this as a piece of fabric to cut out some of the pattern pieces. And the pattern that I'm going to make is the Style Arc Blair shirt. So I have made this before. I think I have the right size. The only thing I know I want to do is lengthen it a little bit. I'm going to use this for the top section. I'm going to use this for the bottom overlay. And I'm going to use this. I had to order this because I was going to use jelly rolls for the collar and the placket, and they just weren't wide enough. So I ordered half a yard of this fabric, and I'm going to use this for the collar and the placket and the underlay. So I think if I have enough to do all that. Otherwise, I'll just use the yellow for the underlay. So I think that's going to come out. I think that's going to come out super, super awesome. I can't wait, and I'm excited to get started on that. The other thing that I've worked on is I've talked to you about my So Frugal top. If you didn't see it, I will put a link to the video here where I talk about my So Frugal ideas about hacking the Paddington top from Peppermint Magazine. And I'm using 3 different size lilac ginghams, and I'm going to insert piping into the sleeve seam of the raglan sleeve. So I've started making some piping, and I'll get into how I made the piping when I do my So Frugal reveal, which will be sometime next week. So that's all I've been, oh, and then I also, where are they? And I also put together 4 more blocks for my interrupted 9 patch. So I've already interrupted one of them, which I showed you earlier, and then I have 3 more 9 patches that are ready to be interrupted. So then I will have 8 blocks done once I finish these. I need to figure out how many total blocks I need. I have no idea how big I want to make this. So that's all I've sewn. So what's up on my table is finishing my Sew Frugal top and finishing my Color Me Cave top. And then I want to work on Adam's bag. So Adam sent a few of us the pattern for his newest bag design, and I want to play around with that. So I'm gonna cut that out this weekend and see what I can get done. So I'm excited about that. Okay, so a little bit about life. I am really excited because we got an email this week that we have a reserved closing date for our house. So we're looking at the beginning of May. That date could change, but they said that they've been holding their closing dates. But of course, if something comes up, it's not a confirmed closing date. So we're getting closer to the end. One of the things I wanted to ask you is I am in the process of, on paper, designing my sewing room and where I want things, what things I have that will work, what things I need to buy, and what I want the room to look like. Is that something that you'd be interested in hearing about? Because I'm thinking maybe I could do a video just on designing my sewing room. If you think you'd be interested in that, let me know in the comments below. That's all I got for you this week, guys. Wherever you are, I hope the weather's amazing. I hope you're able to get some sewing in, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.